Today I'm going to be testing out the White Nights Pastel watercolor palette. White Nights is a Russian brand of watercolors that I've heard really good things about online, but until recently have never had the opportunity to try. I purchased it online from Gwartzman's Art Supplies, which is a Toronto-based art supply store that I will frequent when I'm in the big city, but unfortunately because of the pandemic, I haven't been able to get in. The order came in quickly and was packaged well and securely, and the shipping was free, which is always a miracle in Canada. The palette cost $45 Canadian plus tax, and there are 12 full pans included in this set. The first thing that I like to do when I get a new watercolor palette is to make swatches. I never like to rely on the printed colors for an accurate idea of what they'll look like when they dry. This is why I prefer actually going into smaller, independently run art supply stores like Gwartzman's and Curry's, because they will usually test out the products for you so you can see and touch as you shop. Good art supplies can be so pricey, so it's nice to be able to kind of test it out before you buy it. This set comes with a little insert for swatching, but I like to save the scraps of my favorite paper, in this case Arches Cold Press, to make my own swatches. This gives me a more accurate idea of what the paint will behave like when I'm working on my own. I also like to draw in my own little squares with the ink that I use, in this case, Deleter number 4. Here's the description of the set from the manufacturer. White Nights watercolors are made from a mixture of the finest high-quality pigment particles, gum arabic, and honey. They have a soft consistency, thanks to which the color activates quickly after adding water, mixes well, and picks up well. White Nights colors are characterized by high quality and saturation. Thanks to the high content of pigments, it is possible to dilute them in a larger amount of water. The colors included in this set are peach, coral, magnolia, pink peony, which is pretty similar to the magnolia, lilac, lavender, royal blue, celestial blue, warm green, mint, dune. As soon as I opened the box and saw the colors, I knew that I really wanted to paint Sailor Moon. I wanted the lines to be as clean as possible, so I used a pencil that had light blue lead rather than a regular graphite pencil. I'm using hot pressed paper to make the details stand out more without using a darker line, and I find that this paper is less forgiving than cold press, so I can be more critical with the paint's performance. I need to add a little disclaimer though that even though I'm a professional artist, I'm in no way formally trained. So I go mostly by feeling when it comes to art supplies and making art in general. So apologies in advance if I use the wrong terminology or if my technique makes you cringe. I try to fight the urge to buy supplies based on the color stories of the palettes, but I'm really addicted to adding colors to my life. I have the same weakness when it comes to makeup, which I rarely wear, but if the right colors are grouped together, it's like a siren's call. Oftentimes, I've heard the advice to spend money on higher quality of paints in primary mixing colors. This is both practical and economical, but I think it can be tricky for beginners to figure out mixing colors, and sometimes you honestly just want to sit down and play around with the paint without thinking too much about the colors. I have to say that I was really impressed with this palette. The colors are so bright and vibrant. I'm someone who likes my watercolors more on the opaque side. I like the convenience of pan watercolors with the vibrance and coverage of gouache. I tend to be quite heavy-handed when it comes to painting, although I do wish I could get the hang of a more loose, transparent watercolor style. I was really surprised at how forgiving and liftable these colors were. I'm always making mistakes, and when I'm not working digitally, it's really nice to be able to go back and correct things as I go. This set is more convenient and portable, but in many ways comparable to my current favorite Kuretake watercolor set. White Nights has other color palette options as well, including more practical everyday color sets. It also offers the option to build your own personalized color palettes as well, with individual pans and empty tins to switch colors in and out. I also think that these paints are a great value for the price. It's always a treat when a nicer brand of paint gives you a full-size pans rather than half pans, especially with someone like me who really loves to glob it on thick, though I think the Kuretake pans really spoiled me for that. Everyone has their own personal preference for which watercolors are the best, but it's really all about what feels right to paint with. I remember my first watercolor set. It was an $8 Prang set, and it was required for my grade 9 art class, but I would still recommend it to anyone just starting out. My mom told me that it's okay if the paints are inexpensive, but to get yourself a good quality brush that keeps a nice point. I also find that you can use cheaper paints on good paper and the results will usually be impressive. Watercolors were perfect for me as a teenager because I was super into drawing anime characters but didn't have the money for Copic markers. If you have less than $50 total to spend on art supplies and you're just starting out, I would recommend a water brush, the Prang watercolors, and a Canson mixed media pad, along with a really good eraser. I used the black ones from Tombow. The key really is just to keep making things, even if you only have Crayola markers and printer paper. Good supplies can be a great investment, but remember, they aren't what make good art. My final verdict for the White Nights Pastel Watercolor Palette is a perfect score, 5 out of 5. These watercolors are dreamy, vibrant, and highly blendable. My romantic expectations of these paints were met and exceeded. Whether or not you're a beginner, I highly recommend this palette. These paints are a great value for the price, and the colors turned out absolutely gorgeous. What do you think? Have you tried White Nights paints before? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching and happy painting.
Crumb crisp coating.